It seems like nothing worked. Neither the aircrafts, nor the defense systems, nor the people, as you say, nothing worked.
Yeah, that's the key word.
Hmm.
Basically, again, you can blame the technology,
Hmm.
that the Chinese technology did not work, that
Hmm.
the Russian, for the sake, let's
Hmm.
humor them.
Hmm.
Okay, fine. Okay, Iranian drones didn't work,
Hmm.
the planes didn't work, the aircraft didn't. The Venezuela people, the military,
Hmm.
okay, they maybe they were also fed up of Maduro and they were not happy with him.
Hmm.
Then, as I said, this goes beyond aviation mission.
Hmm.
This was maybe psyops, and the
Hmm.
people were bought, or maybe they were brainwashed, or the CIA, credit to them if they have made enough ground that nobody even he tried to fire upon a helicopter or a US Special Forces commando or the other personnel, etc. So this is, as I said, too good to be true.
First of all, thank you very much, Ali Bhai, for joining us once again on this special episode. Our viewers really love you, and they always want some more of you. And what else could be a better event than the United States raiding Venezuela? We want a technical and geopolitical angle on this story. First, we'll want to take a technical view. Like some big news is published in newspapers and on TV, in the newsrooms of different news channels, there's a buzz. Every big journalist is sitting down and trying to go through that news and trying to like figure out what's going on, if it's on paper or it's on TV. Do you think that this raid on Venezuela would be having the same buzz on the students of aviation, on the aviators themselves? How do you look at this? Is this a historic event, or how do you rate this?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, Assalamu alaikum to you and your viewers. And I really, really like being on your show. So
Thank you.
the thing is that about this current affairs, Uh, 2025 was quite a happening year. May conflict between Pakistan and India, then Israel-Iran conflict, and then some in the last month, close to November, December, there was a deal between Pakistan and Libya, and their crash of Libyan, the chief in Turkey near Ankara. And now the new year has started, and with a bang, Donald Trump has shown the world who's the boss, at least in the Western Hemisphere. So USA is still the superpower there. Now, coming to basically the technical aspect, I have my reservations that what has actually happened,
Hmm.
because the helicopter raid, what I have seen, the aircraft which were used, there were many. I think there were a BBC report says that there were more than 150 aircraft involved. The latest United States aircraft carrier, USS Gerald R. Ford. So there is a class, I'm sure the viewers know, but just still briefly, Nimitz class, and then the Nimitz class carriers, they have USS Abraham Lincoln and all those around 10 aircraft carriers of that class. And now the Gerald R. Ford, it is better than that. So it's in a new class. It is basically better than all other aircraft carriers United States Navy has. So that was in the Caribbean Sea. Then in the Puerto Rico, they have a base, F-35s. They landed there. So the build-up started from 20th August. Like I think there was a news or maybe a press clipping. She's the, I think, press secretary or the spokesperson of Pentagon or White House. I don't remember exactly, but I saw her video that she was saying that United States is declaring Maduro, President Maduro of Venezuela, uh, narco terrorist, etc., things like
Hmm.
that. So from that end August, the build-up started. Now, the actual operation, I'll just very briefly, I'll just go over it, then we'll unpack in detail. It happened, it was actually an extraction. So the 160 SOAR, it's a Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Night Stalkers of US Army. They have these three kinds of helicopters. So UH-60, they call it MH-60, basically UH-60, MH-60, and CH-47, MH-47, Chinook, Black Hawk, and AH-6. So they have different versions. So they have MH-47 of Chinook and MH-60 of Black Hawk. So those Black Hawks are basically Chinooks were they carried the Delta Force, the so-called most clandestine the special forces of United States. Now, why I'm trying to tell the audience also, maybe they are also confused like me, because helicopters, they are very, very vulnerable. Now I understand the Americans, they started with their, they have RQ-170 Sentinel, that wing shaped to, like, without any vertical surfaces, that drone that was there. I saw its video landing back in Puerto Rico. F-22 was there, I think, in air-to-air role. F-35 I've already covered. Then there was aircraft carrier, a nuclear submarine in the Caribbean Sea, some destroyers, then FA-18G, F&G Super Hornet, and then they have another version, EA-18G Growler, which is for electronic attack. So people are saying that they attacked through those aircraft and they took out kinetically or non-kinetically. Like either they dropped bombs on the radars and those S-300 SAM and air defense sites, right? Or maybe they jammed them electronically. However, the question remains that even if you jam complete electronics and air defense systems of an enemy, forget it's Venezuela and it's USA. We just talk about two countries, and one country has completely jammed the air defense system or destroyed the air defense system of the other country. The helicopters, especially once they are hovering, like they said that we were hovering at the top of the building which contained Maduro and his wife, and then the fast roping of the commandos, and they went in and they took him out, and then in helicopters. So there's a long list. Viewers can, they, if I'm sure again many of those know, because your audience is of such a high quality, so they know already these things. But if anyone just searches the Chinooks or helicopter losses in Afghanistan, so in 2002 during Operation Anaconda, there was a loss of Chinook. The Taliban, they just fired an RPG, the rocket propelled grenade. It is not even a man-pads, that air defense, a SAM, surface to air missile. It does not need any electronics. What I'm trying to tell you is, in 2011 there was again Chinook destroyed in Afghanistan. Multiple. There's a movie also, Black Hawk Down, in Somalia, I think. So the helicopters, even if you have destroyed or jammed all the systems of a country, they are still vulnerable to these heavy machine gun or RPGs or manpads. So the question in my mind as an aviator is, why no helicopter was damaged even after all that capability used. That is why, that not to become a conspiracy theorist, but there is another narrative that it was an inside job, in a sense that CIA was working on many assets, and there were many people who were inside the government of Maduro who facilitated. So that's why, now coming back to your question, a historic moment. It is quite difficult. Again, now only technically and militarily, I'm not going into the international law for now, that it's wrong or right to take out a president of a sovereign country. But to this operation, I don't think so that it is something historic, because for one, as I said, that maybe something was already on the ground. They had paid somebody off, or maybe there were other people who facilitated it, etc. Because otherwise, we should have seen at least some damage not even loss of a helicopter, some damage to a helicopter, because this, as I said, that logic that the Americans have jammed and destroyed through SEAD and DIAD, it's suppression of enemy air defense and destruction of enemy air defense. So even though they have extraordinary capability of SEAD and DIAD, and I'm 100% sure that they would have, with silent kills, those soft kills, or maybe kinetic kills, bombing, etc., rockets, whatever, they would have destroyed their defense systems. However, helicopter is, as I said, vulnerable, especially when it is hovering at the building, to any kind of fire. May it be small arms fire, may it be rocket propelled grenades, may it be manpads, may it be heavy machine gun. So that is why I think that this is something historic, in the sense that you have gone to another country and you have taken their president. That is something big. But technically, in aviation terms, this, I'll not say that this will go down in the history as some of the most important missions related to aviation, because as I said, it was, I still have my doubts that it was, the whole credit can be given to the aviation of US Army, Navy, Air Force. They all have their own air power. Basically, I think most of the credit goes to CIA, because as I said, was hand, the people, all their intelligence and all their planning, and it was going on for months. So the only I think is should give credit whole planning community if we can give credit. Again, as I said, that's a separate debate. But at the success of the mission, they were all involved. CIA, the assets on ground, and all that. In aviation terms, it is, I think, USA has done these things also. So I don't say it's a historic moment.
There was a lot of questions when I saw the news and some videos of the raids that emerged from the social media. A lot of questions emerged. I thought first the raid was so clean, Ali Bhai, that I went and I googled that if Venezuela even had an air force, air defense. I started off from there. It was so clean, and then the discussions. A lot of discussions have been happening about helicopters and the uses of helicopters, and a time that helicopters may go obsolete. And then another discussion comes into bounds after this Venezuelan operation, that the helicopters are back in action now. But still, it was very, very vague because everyone knows helicopters are very vulnerable when it comes to combats and assaults like this. And when you're going inside enemy territory, it's uh, I don't know how to describe this. So, can we have the composition of Venezuelan army? I mean, I've heard they've got weapons from they've got F-16s. They had from the USA. They had some Russian equipment as well. They had some Chinese equipment as well, and they had Iranian equipment as well. Could you like walk us through what they had, and then we'll come to how the Americans like seem to have this done.
Okay, sure. So first of all, spoiler. Okay, sure. So first of all, spoiler alert before the details. The Venezuela military, it is not at par with any other country, like any middle power. What to talk of great powers? America is a great power, so even they do not have military like Pakistan, India, Egypt, Turkey, etc. They have F-16s, but firstly, the versions F-16A, B, they are very, very old, and they are. I think the numbers are also very less. Some sources say that only 4 to 5 are airworthy. So even if they have F-16s, it is a bit misleading that Venezuela Air Force has F-16s.
Hmm.
It is very, very old version, the variant of F-16 they have, and the numbers are very less. So again, they also have aircraft like this, I think Su-30 or Su-27, the Russian aircraft. But again, the numbers and all that. So the Air Force, the aircraft of this Venezuela Air Force, I'll not say that they were, even if they were good enough, they are, nobody is good enough to challenge USA's whole might. But still, the Venezuela Air Force was not at par. However, the actual threat, which I'll say that yes, they posed the threat, that was from those S-300 SAM, surface to air missile systems, which were Russian. And those again, these were drones, Iranian drones. I think it was not Shahid, it was some other version, and Al Murahid or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But the thing is, again, they are an offensive weapon, the kamikaze or suicide drones, or
Hmm.
for ISR. In defense, you cannot use those drones. So the main thing for defense was those SAMs, and the Chinese equipment they had were the radars, the surveillance radars. Now, those surveillance radars, actually, it is quite interesting because Western, many of the, I don't know about the media, but many of the Western, say, analysts or OSINT accounts, open source intelligence, they are claiming that it's a failure of Chinese and Russian technology.
Hmm.
And I was actually very astonished that how is it possible? How is
Hmm.
it a failure? So then I just, because I was busy in my exam, so I have not still went in much of depth, but from the face of it, what I read, three, four of those articles which were claiming this. So they said that the Venezuela, they had Chinese radars, and some of those radars, they are claimed to be anti-stealth. Like for example, F-22 and F-35 or RQ-170, the Sentinel, that stealth drone, they claim that those radars had the technology to detect them. So again, I have my reservations on that because the Chinese, their own radars of those variants, which they have produced in last 3 to 4 years, they are quite different. This was some Chinese technology, even if they theoretically they were claimed to be anti-stealth. I don't think so. They had that capability. They were made 20 years back around maybe 2003, 4. And then once, I think around 28, 2010, 2015, they were given to Venezuela. So the technology is at least 20 years old. In the last 20 years, Chinese have come a long way. We have seen their parade on 4th September, and like it's a whole new China. Secondly, now come over to the US capabilities. Even if, for example, the USA had some capabilities which were below the level of today in 2026, and in 2020, 2007 or 2008, somebody claimed that this radar can pick up the American stealth fighters. I am 100% sure that if you fast forward around 15 to 20 years to today, now the American technology, their capability of CAD, DAD, electronic jamming, it's absolutely, I have no doubt that now it is far beyond that version of the radar, which was 20 years old. So first of all, even if that radar has failed, it does not mean that the Chinese technology has failed. The current Chinese technology is at a whole new level. Again, then comes to that S-300 radars. The problem is what people don't understand that even if you can detect a stealth aircraft, you cannot get a firing solution because there are some over the horizon radars, some low band radars, which the VHF frequency, for example, there's a famous case of a F-117 Nighthawk shot down, I think in 1997, 98 in Serbia. Colonel Zoltan, he was the commander of SA-3 or SA-2 SAM, and he shot down that stealth aircraft. I'll not call it a fluke, but it was one in a million chance that he got that aircraft on a predetermined route. It was daily going there, and then the F-16s who were with that aircraft, they were sent back because of the weather, etc. And then he got some firing, not exactly the firing solution, but he knew that the one aircraft is there, and he fired two SAMs, and then he got lucky. I think one was in proximity and one may be hit at the edge of the aircraft. So the point is, what I'm trying to tell the audience is that even if it is possible to detect stealth aircraft, that something is there in this 15-kilometer or 10-kilometer window maybe, it is very, very difficult to get a firing solution because of the range, bearing, resolution, and all. So the Chinese or the Americans, they may be able to shoot down a stealth jet now, except that, as I said, that Serbian, that we'll just keep it to some side. Otherwise, one radar or one SAM system, it cannot shoot down a fifth generation aircraft because that is for now, it is state of the art technology, gold standard in aviation. And if I make a silver bullet that, okay, fine, this is the radar which can detect it, and this is the radar and SAM which can shoot it down, the technology simply goes obsolete. So $100 million, like $80 million for F-35A, around $100 million for F-35B, C. So the $100 million aircraft, the people are spending billions and billions of it. There are orders still in the backlog. Lockheed Martin has still many, many orders. And people are saying that no, because Chinese have made this anti-stealth aircraft, so it's gone. So I don't think so. It works like that. You need a whole ecosystem. You need your assets in space. You need your electronic warfare aircraft. You need your these AVAX, airborne early warning radar. You need your over-the-horizon radar, maybe quantum radars, and then maybe you get a chance because Chinese have shown this in a previous exercise recently. A J-10C, it shot down a J-20, which is a stealth fifth generation aircraft at 200 kilometers. But again, as I said, this is misleading because the whole ecosystem, a J-16D, that electronic warfare aircraft was with it, KJ-500 was with it, many sensors, IR sensors, electro-optic sensors, radar sensors, etc. So coming back to the point of Venezuela, I don't think that this means that the Chinese and the first Air Force, we can just keep it aside. The aircraft were not part. The Iranian drones and the F-16 and the Russian Sus, they were not good enough to stop America. However, this radars and SAMs, they were definitely a threat. They were neutralized by the Americans. So it is not a failure of Chinese or Russian this technology. And it brings back to my question also that even if somehow a Chinese radar or a Russian SAM has not worked, what about people, human beings carrying simple RPGs on their shoulders or having machine guns in their hands? Not a single US casualty, not a single damaged helicopter. Something is actually fishy. So, so that's why I am time and again I'm saying that I have still my doubts about this operation that what actually happened.
It seems like nothing worked. Neither the aircrafts, nor the defense systems, nor the people, as you say, nothing worked.
Yeah, that's the key word. Basically, again, you can blame the technology, that the Chinese technology did not work, that the Russian, for the sake, let's humor them. Okay, fine. Okay, Iranian drones didn't work, the planes didn't work, the aircraft didn't. The Venezuela people, the military, okay, they maybe they were also fed up of Maduro and they were not happy with him. Then, like as I said, this goes beyond aviation mission. This was maybe psyops, and the people were bought, or maybe they were brainwashed, or the CIA credit to them if they have made enough ground that nobody even he tried to fire upon a helicopter or a US Special Forces commando or the other personnel, etc. So this is, as I said, too good to be true. But let's see what the details, maybe some other details if emerge, because as I said before, the systems and the capability of Venezuela and USA, there is absolutely no comparison, as simple as that. But that does not, because I have given you examples of Taliban, the this in the Afghanistan during that mission, Black Hawk, Somalia. There are many examples in which people have only fought against or fired upon helicopters using the weapons in their hands. So for that weapon, you do not need any electric machinery or technology or radar or something like that. It just works. You point it towards the helicopter and you just shoot. And even if it is night, because the operation was at 2 a.m. in the morning, and then maybe still, even if I just listen to the voice and the sound of the rotors of the helicopter, and Chinook makes like that huge two rotors, and it's like sound is so much that even if I blindly look towards that side and I just fire something, maybe 3, 4 RPGs, something was bound to hit. So big question mark on this one. What actually happened?
So when the people say that it was U.S. Equipment versus Russian, Chinese, and Iranian equipment, they're actually saying that it was old versions versus the new versions. That's what you said.
As I said, it's totally misleading. Yeah, it's totally misleading. Number one, because as I said, that I'm sure, for example, again, just another example, if a radar operator is sitting there, and again, I have bought him, or maybe I have coerced him, and I have told him that you are not going to fire a SAM on any American. Like, that does not mean that the machine or that SAM did not work. There can be other factors also. So that is why first I'll not agree with this assumption that it was US versus Chinese and Russian equipment, and the Russian and Chinese equipment failed. We can only ensure that it failed if somebody was sitting there, he got a lock, he tried to shoot it down, the SAM went towards the aircraft, and then it was spoofed or jammed, or maybe it failed to hit the target. Nothing of this sort happened. At least I have not seen any news in which something of this sort has happened. So that's why I think this is quite misleading, number one. And secondly, even if, again, let's just humor them, even if it was, let's say, true that those were fired and extract, etc., maybe the SAMs were blocked upon the aircraft or anything like that, still, I'll I'll say that the Americans, they came with their military might of 2026, and what Venezuela had from Russia and China, it was at least 2 decades old technology. So again, I will say that, okay, fine, if you want to get complacent, that we can take on China, up to you. But I think the Pentagon knows, after, especially after this India-Pakistan May conflict, we have already talked a lot about it, so I'll not digress from the main topic. But the PL-15 and J-10C and all those HQ-9 and the latest Chinese weapons, they have actually shown the world that China is the new rising power. I'll not say it's, maybe it will challenge USA in near future, but still, the same China, which was 15 to 20 years back, because I am myself pilot of a Chinese aircraft. So we all in Pakistan, all around the world, I'll not blame people if they say that Chinese were not at par with the Western technology. We are all witness to it 15, 20 years back. However, it's not the case today. So that is the key point, that if you want to say that, yes, we are better than the Chinese technology, which was 15, 20 years back, absolutely. There is no doubt about it. But that does not prove that you are better than Chinese, but they have today in their arsenal. And if you are inferring it, it is a wrong conclusion, in my opinion. let's say again that maybe this is just for the media, because I think what Pete Hegseth said regarding China, that we have done all the war games, and in every war game inside South China Sea and East China Sea, USA has lost to China. So in their own backyard, Chinese backyard, the Americans now cannot win. So I think this is maybe more for the consumption of the people. Donald Trump is big on all these optics, and so I think he is happy if people are saying that the USA alone has destroyed the technology of Russia, Iran, and China. It's a big boost for Donald Trump, at least. True or not militarily, that's a totally separate debate.
They said a few fires did hit the helicopter, but it remained workable and it flew off and got to their target. And then they're also saying that there's one officer who also got injured during the entire thing. But the thing is, it's quite you can see actually a lot of things didn't work in the circuit. It was the entire circuit. It wasn't only one two components. It was the entire circuit that didn't work, and you can see it. And also, Ali bhai, when you talk about the vulnerability of helicopters, we actually saw that when they came to pick Osama up, there was no resistance at all. Still, one helicopter went down inside the compound of Osama. This actually shows you how vulnerable this maneuvering a helicopter, using helicopters in missions are. But here it was a clean in and a clean out. So we will get to the geopolitics of this side. How would America be able to like pull strings without doing anything kinetically, making sure, and then coming in when they know that everything has been settled? So, the last thing, we'd also get we want a separate episode with you when Panama's president was also picked up like this. It was also, I think, a helicopter raid, and but for that we'll keep another episode. So how does this, Ali bhai, I was thinking in the South American region, if I was a president, I would be feeling so insecure after what has happened. This has set a new precedent. And how do you think this would go on? I mean, Putin would also be thinking to go in and get the Ukrainian president out of there. Everyone has their own like targets. How will this play on?
First of all, I'd like to second your point regarding that helicopters, even if there is no resistance, it is very, very dangerous. You are flying close to terrain. And then obviously, if you are in confined space or in a populated area where there are buildings and trees, and then there are some electrical cables, etc. So helicopter has many, many of those threats. And yes, it is quite possible that even if there is no resistance, you may lose a helicopter, like you have already given the example. So that's why it is very, very extraordinary that they have all their helicopters have came back. And again, we'll wait for more details on that. Anyhow, now coming to briefly the geopolitics, you see, the problem is that yes, maybe Putin has been thinking it even before this, but Russia does not have the capability. Let's be very clear.
Hmm.
The great powers right now, USA, China, and Russia. Russia has the only advantage of the maximum number of nuclear warheads in the world. They have even more than the United States, right? Otherwise, the capability gap between USA and Russia, it is increasing since even after 1991, Russia was in a quite actually poor shape at the time of Boris Yeltsin, economically and militarily. And recently, basically, they have shown a resurgence in economy also and in this military might also, but the gap has been increasing. So Russia, I don't think so. They may, even if they want to, they'll be able to take out President Zelensky like this. However, the other great power, China, maybe they'll not go after the Taiwanese leaders like this, but all the geopolitical or the IR scholars and analysts, they are asking one question, that now if China decides, because Venezuela is a sovereign country, Taiwan is not a sovereign country, according to China. It has not been given the United Nations membership because the Chinese veto it, and they say that one China policy, Taiwan is a part of China. Now, they are a patient nation. They have waited since 1948, so maybe they'll wait for whatever time they want, 50 years more, 100 years more. Maybe we don't see in our lifetime this unification of China. Maybe we see it next year. But the point is that Chinese are very clear. You have, I think, Victor Gao or Carl Jia on your program. I have seen him. So they are very, very clear, even with the Japanese Prime Minister's recent remarks and all that. I have seen your episodes on that. So the thing is that if somehow the Chinese accelerate their taking over of Taiwan, kinetically or non-kinetically, how will USA or the Western countries or NATO, who are all praising, whether it is European Union, European Union Commission's president, whether it is the German Chancellor, whether it is French President Macron, whether it's Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of, they are all just saying, okay, yeah, we are okay with it. That you go into another sovereign country and take out their president. So Taiwan, which is already a disputed territory according to Chinese, and it is not a sovereign country, not a United Nation member. And if you go there and say we are unification, and around 40 to 50% of the population there, they support it. Half the population at least. The Chinese somehow I think it's already 30, 40%, but maybe they are increasing the support for mainland China with the passage of time. So how are you going to tell them in United Nations, or you are asking the world for sanctions against China, etc., that it's a wrong thing? Because actually you have set the precedent, number one. Secondly, the people are saying it's all about oil, it's all about oil. I don't think so. It's only about oil. I think it's more about the resources other than oil. For example, rare earth elements, etc. Venezuela, Colombia,
Hmm.
Peru, Bolivia, they have those like Perez copper mines. Chinese companies are mining there. So it's like multi-dimensional.
Hmm.
Oil is one, obviously. Oil, they are the biggest oil reserves. Then it is about the Chinese influence. I'll give you a brief example of Argentina also. Argentina and United Kingdom, they fought a war over Falkland Islands in 1982, and they wanted aircraft like Gripen or any Western system. So the British, they just vetoed it, that will not allow you to have this. Finally, Argentinians, they said that, okay, we are going for JF-17 from Pakistan and China and all that. And now Argentina has F-16s. They are second hand, I think, from Denmark or Norway. I think, yeah, from Denmark, Danish F-16s, second hand F-16s. But still, it's a Western aircraft, Western system. So that what I'm trying to say is that the Monroe Doctrine of President Monroe since 1823, that the Western Hemisphere, if you divide the Eastern and Western Hemisphere, the world into hemispheres, so the Western Hemisphere belongs to USA. It's the regional hegemon, and it will not tolerate any other power in this region. So I think it's more about pushing China out of the Western Hemisphere gradually and slowly, with US influence in South America. And the flip side of this, which I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but the flip side is that I think they are ceding South China Sea and East China Sea to China. Like they have accepted the fact, at least in their hearts, that okay, fine, we cannot win against China in East Asia. So there is
Hmm.
maybe there is a not an official understanding, yeah, but
Hmm.
the two great powers, they have decided that okay, fine, we will
Hmm.
not say anything about the Western Hemisphere. You can do whatever you want in South America, but you will do the same in this East Asia. So the islands in East China Sea, the Senkaku Islands and the Spratly Islands in this South China Sea, Taiwan, etc., whole nine dash line, the territorial claims of the Chinese, which many states, not even South Korea and Japan, which are the allies of USA. There are other countries also like Malaysia and then Brunei, etc., which have issue with those claims. But if you are trying to consolidate Western Hemisphere, then you have to cede the territory in the Eastern Hemisphere.